Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. The Christmas tree is the centerpiece of holiday celebrations for many families. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Christmas tree farms can be found in all 50 states. Here at Across the Fence, we think the best tree farms are found in the Northeast and specifically Vermont. As Keith Silva learned, when it comes to the best Christmas trees, we aren't the only ones who think Vermont trees are number one.
The tree I was looking at is a nice looking tree.
Ann Lynn and Brian King have come a long way to cut their Christmas tree. Where are you from, Brian?
Jarrettsville, Maryland.
What are you doing here from Jarrettsville, Maryland?
These are the best Christmas trees we've ever had. Basically, they'll last 6-7 weeks if you keep water in the bucket. It's a lot of fun to come up and cut them.
What are the Christmas trees like in Maryland?
The cut your own places in Maryland will have 4 or 5 different varieties of tree. Problem is, all the ones we've cut down there, within 2 weeks, they're dropping a lot of their needles. It's all part of the Christmas experience. It's a chance to be outdoors. For us, it's a Christmas feature. We've either had a live tree or a tree that we cut all our lives.
We'll check back in with the Kings in a few minutes. Pete, what kind of trees do we have here?
We have balsams.
Oh, just all balsams?
There's a few cananes, but the majority of them are balsams.
And how many? Pete Purinton and his family began planting Christmas trees here in Huntington in 1990. 16,000 trees dot these 14.5 acres, and according to Purinton, each one has a look and a personality all its own.
Trees are like people. Some people are shorter, and some of them are a little wider, and some people are taller and narrower. And trees are the same way. So you take what the tree is offering and work with it.
As for that perfect Christmas tree, Purinton believes beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
That's your choice. It's just like anything else. My perfect tree is not your perfect tree. It's your taste is what will give you that fuzzy feeling. This is my tree. And it may not work for me. The magical feeling of this is my tree. You want a deep green or even a bluish color, depending on the species. Trees, again, like people, they take characteristics of their parents. Some people are bluer, some people are greener. It's just you want a deep green color.
To cut a Christmas tree at Purinton's costs $45 for any size tree. And like all choose and cut Christmas tree operations, every tree comes with a guarantee.
It is fresh. You cut it. That is truly a fresh cut, not a fresh cut from a retail lot where they take a little sliver off. That's fresh cut. This is truly fresh cut when you harvest it yourself. You understand what I'm saying?
For about 50 weekends out of the year, a Christmas tree farm is a fairly quiet place. As for those other 2 weekends, not so much.
It's the first and second weekend of December is usually the 2 busiest weekends. Busy would be a weekend, 600 trees. It's a lot of people going through, and the other busy weekend might be 500 or 450, something like that, but better than half your trees are sold on those 4 days.
Choosing and cutting a Christmas tree is a tradition for some families. And as the grower, Purinton plays an important role.
I'm getting to the age where I just talk to people. I don't really do the physical work of it anymore, but I'm out there joking with people because I think that's part of the reason we were successful is because people maybe have gotten used to seeing us every year, and now the next generation's coming back.
So you're part of the family. You're part of somebody. That's going to be pretty special.
Exactly. I'm a part of everybody's Christmas. I'm supplying them with something that they're happy with, that does the job, and it meets their expectations, and it feels good here. Feels good for my children, too.
Christmas tree farms are a part of Vermont's working landscape, a unique aspect of what makes Vermont, Vermont.
I had one person when I first started planting trees in this field driving by who was a neighbor. He says, "That's a nice field to be putting Christmas trees in." And I says, "You know, I could probably put 16 driveways in if you'd rather." That's not going to happen. the Christmas trees is more important than the houses.
As for the Kings, they've found their Christmas tree. And in spite of a foot of snow on the ground and a 5-hour car ride before they can get their tree home, it's all worth it.
The difficulty of walking through or having to knock the snow off the tree is more than offset by the beauty and basically the fun of having snow on the ground. Really, it's a great start to Christmas.
When it comes to Christmas traditions, choosing and cutting a Christmas tree is an experience that's sure to be a cut above. In Huntington, I'm Keith Silva with Across the Fence.
Thanks, Keith. One other note on a connection between Christmas trees in Vermont. It's thought the first indoor Christmas tree in America was put up by a German prisoner of war captured at the Battle of Bennington in 1777. Well, speaking of Vermont and history, let's check in with historian Howard Coffin, who takes us from Bennington to Derby Line and everywhere in between in search of commemorations of Vermont's Civil War history.
More Vermont Civil War soldiers came home to Brattleboro than to any other Vermont town, and more went to war from here. This is Brattleboro's busy main street. The soldiers marched along here to the train station, and coming home they marched from the train station right down this street. Pictures exist of Vermont soldiers resting along this street as they returned from 4 years of war. They were taken by George Harper Houghton, the great Civil War photographer who had a studio right in that building. The old Brattleboro Railroad station stood along these tracks close by the Connecticut rivers. The troop trains stopped here. One train that arrived during the Wilderness Campaign was filled with wounded, and it was a quarter of a mile long. The men who had fought at Wilderness and Spotsylvania and Cold Harbor, who had fought at Gettysburg, who had fought in the Chancellorsville campaign, got off the trains here. In many cases, their loved ones were here to greet them. An unknown Brattleboro poet wrote about the departure of the 4th Vermont Regiment from Brattleboro and then its return in a poem that was published on the front page of the Brattleboro Phoenix in September of 1861. Slowly through the misty street comes the measured tramp of feet, and 1,000 forms sweep by, stepping to the roll of drum, down the darkening street they come. And the poet concluded, will they tread the homeward track? God in mercy bring them back. Here by the main entrance to the Brattleboro Union High School is the Civil War Memorial, dedicated in 1906. It's here because on what are now the grounds of the school was located the largest of all Vermont Civil War encampments. More than 10,000 Vermont soldiers went to war from here, and many more than that came home here. Here is a soldier depicted all ready to go to war in perfect uniform, and here he is coming home at the end of it all battered and bandaged, but shouting with happiness because he is home back to Vermont. Rows on rows of barracks once stood on these fields, and off in the far corner was a Civil War hospital, one of 3 in Vermont. The Civil War soldiers who camped here before going to war included the men who would fight at Gettysburg in the 2nd Vermont Brigade and win that battle, I believe. The men, when they were here, wrote about the shade of the pine trees, and I'm sure those pine trees off in that direction are the children or grandchildren of those Civil War pines. When the war ended, here they got their discharges signed by their commanding officers. They treasured them, and they've been saved in so many Vermont families. and off they went home to their farms, back to the old jobs, or some to head west for new adventure. The towns that were hit hardest by the Civil War here in Vermont erected the first memorials. Here in Derby Line, this monument was erected on October 31st, 1866. Two speakers at the dedication, Josiah Grout, veteran of the Vermont Cavalry, soon to be governor, and a man named B.H. Steele, who said, 53 of the soldiers of our town lost their lives in the great work, and such lives, young, ardent, promising lives, around which clustered our fond hopes and tender aspirations. The monument has a plaque listing the names of all the soldiers from Derby who served. There are stars beside the names of those who died. There are many stars. One of Vermont's most intricate Civil War memorials stands here on the green in Coventry, dedicated in 1912, and made not of stone, but of metal. It has the likenesses of George Dewey, the hero of Manila Bay, who won a Medal of Honor in the Civil War at Vicksburg, of Abraham Lincoln and George Garrison Stannard, heroes of Gettysburg, and of Ulysses Grant. It also has the names of major battles. And there's a quotation on this monument that I like. "'Tis a rough land of rock and stone and tree, where breathes no castle lord nor cabin slave, where thoughts and hands and tongues are free, and friends will find a welcome, foes a grave." Brattleboro's Civil War monument on the north side of the village in the town common is one of Vermont's finest. Atop it, a Union soldier looks south toward the old battlefields. The monument is from a grateful town honoring the 385 Brattleboro men who served. It includes a plaque bearing the state seal, a list of many of the major battles in which Vermonters fought, and also there are the healing words of Lincoln from the second inaugural address, "With malice toward none, with charity to all." Woodstock honored its 289 veterans by putting an eagle-topped monument by the village school. Years went by, and the veterans decided it wasn't adequate, so they put up a new one in Tribou Park on the east end of town. It was dedicated on Memorial Day, 1909. 1,500 people were present to see 30 young women in white dresses pull the flag off the great edifice, while the old veterans gave 3 cheers and a tiger. Roar! The monument honored Woodstock soldiers who had fought from Big Bethel to Appomattox, Big Bethel being the first battle of the war in which Woodstock troops had fought. The Woodstock monument faces due east. Vermont monuments to the Civil War face in any direction, north, south, east, and west. Confederate monuments almost all face north, so as not to have their backs to the Yankees. But the Union won the war. Vermonters didn't care which way they looked.
Thank you, Howard, and thank you for joining us. That's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. I'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.